then?
Well, hi, everyone. So we got you all to raise your hand so we can do introductions. I'm going to replay the slideshow of the pictures from 2021 at the end. And so if you've got your little yellow hand up, no problem, but there's 4 of you that I'll call on first. It'll be Linda, Sandy, I lost track, Frank, Hugh, and then Jack. So we'll go that way first. Linda.
Okay, I'm Linda Norland. I'm from Lakewood Seward Park Hub and glad to be here tonight.
Hi, and I'm Sandy Motzer, and I'm from the Lake City Hub.
I think it's Frank.
Frank Gall, I'm from the Magnolia Hub.
Hugh, and unmute Hugh and Jack.
Hugh Kelso and Kirkham Park Hub.
Jack Herndon, Finney Hub co-captain.
Great. I'm Cindy Barker. I'm with the Morgan Junction Hub. And now, as I call your name, when you have your little yellow hands up, put them down. So it'll be Louise, followed by Ann, and then Catherine.
I'm Louise Luthi, Laurelhurst Hub.
And Forest Victory Heights Hub.
Catherine Middleton. My home hub is Magnolia, but I'm here representing Seattle ICS.
And the next after that, we'll have Bill Fay, Gabrielle, and Matt.
Okay, I'm Bill Fay. I'm with the Queen Anne Hub.
I'm Gabrielle Gerhardt. I'm with the Windermere North Sandpoint Hub.
I'm Matt Blank from the Ravenna Hub.
Great. Then we'll go with Melissa, Sarah, and Gina.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm with the U Heights Hub.
Hi, I'm Sarah Armstrong, and I'm with the Madison Park Hub.
I'm Gina. I'm with the Brayburn Capitol Hill Hub.
And then Erica and Susan.
I'm Erica Hurnett. I'm with the Highland Park Improvement Center Hub in West Seattle.
And I'm Susan Speaker with Radnor Gardens.
Great. That worked really slick. I like that. Thank you for letting me experiment. I see 2 new people who have joined. And so what we're just going to catch them up in introductions, your name and your hub. So it'll be Shai and then Tom.
I'm Cheyenne. I'm co-captain for High Point neighborhood.
This is Tom, I presume. Tom Caney, Madrona.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Glad to have everybody here. I am going to start the slideshow. Like I said, it's just going to take the whole stinking screen. Sorry about this. So once I start going through this, oh shoot, good job, Cindy. Once I start going through this, I'm going to put it into slideshow mode. And I was trying to get to where I could see the chat and see all of you. And that was what was screwing up the other show. So I don't know what's going to happen here, but we'll see. And as usual, even though, there's more than 5 or 6 of us, I would really like this to be an interactive group. And so please do, if you have questions, stop me. If you can raise your hand, I see you faster. I'm not going to turn on chat. It just distracts me. And so it's better if you just say, hey, Cindy, stop, So let's make sure we're doing some interaction. And a lot of this is going to be about your input. So I just don't want to make it really artificial where, somebody has to read the chat out loud. Let's all be present at this. So we did the 2021 kind of recap in pictures. I've sent out the activity report, fantastic. And that was without getting to do anything really significant due to COVID. What we're going to do tonight is we're going to confirm what our mission statement is for the network. It helps bring the new hub captains up to speed with what the network is all about. We had had our leadership retreat in 2020, the month before COVID, and that focus statement that we created that you'll see is really, I feel relevant to continued work. You know, the whole world sort of paused for those 2 years and I don't think much has changed, but I want to validate that with everybody. And then we have 2 more sections to go through that are around network decisions or directions that have come up in the past 2 years that people have asked me to put on the parking lot for the next workshop. And then there is some transition of tasks. As you know, I'm on, the last year was supposed to be my last year of my transition plan, but you know, COVID was like, oh no, we're gonna extend that, you know, so there's still some tasks that I need to rotate off to other people, or we just have to decide if we're going to drop them. So I wanted to just make sure what we're talking about today is we are a coalition of individual hubs, and each hub runs itself a little bit different. We're all structured in how we communicate with our communities and the emphasis we have and the people we serve. And we bring those individual aspects to the network, and that helps us build this backbone across all Seattle that lets everybody work together and accomplish these great things that we're getting done. And every one of you guys is a really committed individual, whether you feel it or not. You know, sometimes you can't make every meeting, but I know you're out there and I know you're committed to preparedness in your communities, and everything we do around this topic helps. And it's important work. And I wanted to share a story of how some of us see that all the time. So Ann and I last month went to teach a group of 9th graders. We had 4 9th grade classes to teach. And we were doing kind of a combination of preparedness, you know, 101 stuff, but we had them be a hub. Each of the classes formed a hub and we put them through a hub 101. So the first half of the session is, you know, just basic preparedness stuff, what to put in a go kit, how important it is, communication plans and things like that. So the first day that we were there, we got through those 2 classes. We were there all day long. And the teacher who had us with us, we had talked to her a little bit ahead of time, and she was very interested in what we were doing. She's a social studies teacher, and she was helping the students write grants around, you know, activating your community. We came back the next morning, and overnight, Russia had invaded Ukraine. And it turns out that teacher is Ukrainian. Well, she's Russian. Her grandmother's family is all in Ukraine. She has lots of friends in Russia, and her Ukrainian friends she spent the whole night on Facebook and Instagram or whatever she was using, and they were asking her what to do. And she told us that what she learned in that class was what she was telling them. They were saying, what if we have to evacuate? And she was saying, put your important papers in, take pictures of your family, have this much food, be prepared to sanitize your water. So she was kind of a nexus of communication to people across the world that this basic and fundamental and very important preparedness information was getting to. And Ann and I were just blown away because she was just so thankful that she had that information and she could share it in a time of need. So it was really super cool. And that I see that whenever I come behind someone and they've done a presentation in their community and people thank us, it's fantastic. So I thank you all for being here, part of your hub and part of this network. So I just really wanted to say that. So now we'll go on into kind of like what we're going to do tonight. So this is what I forgot to take pictures from our leadership meeting in 2020. We had an in-person meeting and I came away with 1,000 pieces of paper, and all that typed notes that you had was from all these markup sheets. And so we did a lot of work in that one, talking about some of our issues, how we can structure, how we can do better outreach. And so the network focus that I'm going to talk about in our focus, or excuse me, our network statement and our focus items are 2 consistent things from that meeting. So this is our mission statement of being a hub network. And I do want to pause. Is anybody got anything they want to ask out there? Okay. So this is the hub mission statement. It's saying we're a coalition. We have a shared mission of preparedness, responding and being resilient after a major disaster. We do this by supporting the hubs, creating opportunities to develop and understand best practices, sponsoring different activities, and assisting each other in our individual efforts. Is there anybody out there and I can't see all of you, so I'm not going to ask for a thumbs up vote, but I'm going to just say, is there anybody out there who has a concern or wants to modify this for a really, I don't want any, put a comment in. I mean, like I want substantial concerns. Anybody out there see any reason why we should do surgery on this thing? Okay, Louise, I'm going to mute you. Yeah, thanks, because you keep breaking through with a little bit of background noise. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go on, and I'm going to mark this as okay. I am taking notes.
I have a question, Cindy.
Yeah.
So I know it was the network mission statement, and there was another thing that you were gonna like reaffirm with everyone. I guess I wonder if there's some place or where, if something around equity and inclusion, around, a lot of these, when we're talking about communities being prepared, a lot of times communities with less funding are less prepared.
Mm-hmm.
And even thinking about, the existing hub coalition being, mostly, if not all, white people.
Yep.
And
that's in our focus area. We'll get to that next.
Okay,
and
great.
I'll make sure
Okay,
I cover kind of some of the background of those points. That's a good question.
Perfect. Great, thank you.
Because when you have to take a whole lot of dialogue and write it into one stinking sentence, you lose. Yeah. Okay. Anything else before I move off the mission statement? Okay. Oops. So this is the conversation we had, and we said this is what we're going to focus on. What Melissa was talking about is down here on the third bullet. We recognized we did some deep dives on how to get demographics in your neighborhood. We wrote a guidebook on how to do inclusive outreach to communities who don't speak your language, who don't have your economic equity, who have access and functional needs. Got that thing finished and COVID hit. So we did not get any time to practice with it. But because this was on our focus statements, I had set up a meeting with the Department of Neighborhoods director to talk about getting funds to do equity outreach. And he's gone now. So I've already got a call in to the new director to say, all right, I'm not waiting for you to get your feet under you. We're just going to bring you into this conversation right now. So, I hope, that's a very generic statement, but we are very focused on lifting ourselves up to some higher standards. So if you guys can take a minute to kind of see if everything that you think is important is captured in here, I can give more background or ask questions. So I'll give you a couple minutes to do that. So any concerns, any proposed changes?
I think one thing that has been, it's been nice that there is a program within the city to fund the purchase of hub boxes and some of the contents, but we have some ongoing expenses and purchases that we did. It would be nice to have some discussion around how to accomplish fundraising for hubs, individual hubs.
Do you, is that something that we can accomplish by like setting up a deep dive to, just like a brainstorming session, or do you think it should be written into our summary of focus?
I think just as a general thing, you've got in there the sector-based mentoring approach. It's mentoring the folks in that. I don't know if we need to add that into this the summary of focus, but as part of mentoring, letting people know the ways that they can, that they can raise funds for their
Okay.
for their hubs.
We can put it on the, I agree, we can put it on the things to ask about, because I've seen multiple emails where people ask those questions. So that's a good item. Erica, followed by Gabrielle.
So my question is primarily about the last bullet point. It probably made sense to me in 2020 when we wrote this, and now I can't remember what we actually mean. So I'm thinking that maybe we could, I don't want to rework it, but I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah,
Are we building new relationships with existing partners? Is it new partners? Is it
it's
bringing
been
new
both.
hubs? It's just, I don't actually know what that means now.
We do, Ann and I have represented the hubs at multiple partner groups, like the Washington Volunteer, WAVOAD, the state voluntary organizations active in disaster, or the OEM, or King County Disabilities Commission, or the Coalition for Inclusive Emergency Planning. So as a network group, we take care of kind of like these overarching emergency groups. At a hub level, which is kind of where your partnership things come into, it's like getting in partnership with the local church. Can they be your shelter? So it's really building strength both as individual response planning and who do we know that we get information from and can share with people. So I'm trying to think, if there's a way to say continue to build new. This one was because it's part of a network. Yeah.
As you were explaining it, I think I have some ideas. As we continue, I'll scribble out and make a suggestion for a rewording that makes it a little clearer, hopefully.
Okay. Anne, is there anything you want to add to that too? Because this is a memory test for Cindy from 2 years ago, right?
I don't remember, but I'm wondering about changing the sentence to work to build and strengthen relationships with partners.
Okay, and then Erica is going to shoot me some scribbles. So whatever is pending what Gabrielle says, everybody's okay if we modify that to make it a little more, what the heck did you mean? So, okay. Gabrielle?
I think it was Melissa who brought up the DEI component, and I like the third point. I'm just wondering if we could make it a little bit clearer and use, either diversity or inclusion or equity as a little bit more of a signal that we want to do this, because as it stands now, it could be interpreted that we're not necessarily really trying to engage with audiences that we haven't engaged with as much, but that we're just trying to engage with more of the same kinds of audiences. So that would be my only suggestion.
Yeah,
I'm going to piggyback. What was that?
It is oddly generic. It's the audiences we want to engage.
Yeah, I was going to piggyback onto that and say, to add on to that sentence with a focus on historically marginalized communities.
Well, I put specifically with an equity lens. So yes, say yours again, say yours again.
Yeah, with a focus on historically marginalized communities.
I think those are both good. What you both said, you could probably put them both in, and it is from 2 years ago, and things have changed, and I just think we're a little more direct. That's good, and that's all I'll say.
Melissa, put that in the chat, would you? Because my handwriting is slower than my brain cells. So Gabrielle, so that was what your comment was emphasizing what perfect. Great. No, that's good, because if we have a focus thing that doesn't mean anything to people, not that we ever pull it out and look at it, but it's good in 2 years when we go back and say, this is what we ingrained in our heads that we wanted to do. Did we get there? Anybody else got, so we're going to strengthen the last bullet and we're going to strengthen the third bullet about the equity lens.
Oh, this is Gab. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sarah. I'll go after you.
Well, just a quick, does everybody understand what in the first bullet point, sector-based mentoring is? Like, what are the sectors? Is it obvious?
Good question. On our map, the city has been divided up into 7 sectors that align with the auxiliary communication services sector teams. And it's a nice convenient way to sort of group people because they're the sort of islands we expect to see after a disaster. It's sort of like north of the ship canal and then divided by I-5, you know, probably people aren't going to cross that. So those 2 sectors, it works much better if all of Ballard and Northwest Seattle does activities because you, as a network, you can create more common messaging. You can help each other in your different fairs. And the mentoring was Cheryl, who I'm not sure I saw on today. I think she's on vacation. Cheryl acts as kind of a like, you know, oh, here's a new hub. Let me connect you with the nearest hub captain near you and you guys can mentor each other. So Sarah, you're kind of been out in Madison Park. You don't have anybody really near you. That's why, you know, Ann or I are helping. But Catherine Keller, who I didn't catch if she's on, she's been helping mentor new hubs, as has Tom in the, you know, Madison Valley and Central area. So Gina is another one who's on, who's like been herding the new hub captains up on Capitol Hill. So it takes the pressure off of Ann and me, and it makes it much more local, and you guys get more resilient in who you're connected with. Gabrielle?
Yeah, I was wondering if we need one that talks about advocacy, and I'm specifically, so maybe not necessarily advocacy around funding, but other kinds of advocacy. You did the thing with the state, looking at the Good Samaritan rule. Maybe there's other kinds of advocacy that specifically needs to be done, but maybe that goes in a different place.
Yeah, if we put that in as a focus item, you have to find someone else to do it, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so it's sort of been happening just because we keep falling into situations where we go, what the heck? And, you know, it grows on its own. But if you start saying we need to be advocating for it, then that means we're writing position papers and stuff like that. So I would be cautious about that one.
I guess I'm thinking about it more the way you framed it, that when something needs to be done, we step in and do it, but maybe that, you know, you step in and do it. I shouldn't take any credit for it. So I guess that's fine if we just leave it as something that sometimes happens.
Yeah, we will talk about that, because one of my really key things about you guys all is you have so many skills and so many interests, and projects get started because somebody has an interest in something, and that turns into advocacy, because a project is really because you're trying to move something from, you know, there's nothing there to a better place, and you're trying to fill the gap. And unlike an organization that's got a specific goal, like, you know, 50% of open space should be left green, you know, something like that. There's nothing to advocate for other than the continual, please be prepared, you know, please city, do everything you can to prepare your citizens. Please state, do everything you can to make outreach easy, that sort of stuff. So we'll come through that again, because I do list kind of some of the meetings that happen and where we have gone through and done that. I'm doing a lot of talking already, I can tell. Other comments? So far, just those 2 changes. Okay. Are people comfortable if we just write those and circulate them and kind of call it good, or how do you think we should approve these? Just kind of do it, call it good. Yeah, and if we have issues, we can bring it up at another hub captain meeting. Okay, thank you. No vote. Okay, so this, I'm going to leave this on for a second here while I write that down. And these are the things that I need to talk about because they've been asked to be brought up at the next leadership committee meeting. So we'll do the same sort of thing, you know, just speak up as I go through these one by one. The first one is the email system that we have is courtesy of Carl Leon. He set up an email system for us back in 2014. So that's how old it is. It's free, which means it's limited, which behind the scenes means that anybody who, it seems to really irritate Comcast and AOL and anybody who is not a Gmail user, that I get spam bounces all the time. So I'll send out an email, and occasionally I'll get up to 20 bounces from hub captains who didn't get that email, and it goes into my spam filter. So I sometimes don't see it for several days, and I have to then manually email that to them. So it's a crappy piece of crap. So we need a better email system. It needs action. I am not the person to do this. I am not a technical person. I'm just hanging on to it by my fingernails. It's my time to ask, please, can someone step up and find us a new email system that will work? So that's what we really have to do. I need a team to say we're going to do this, or if everybody goes, we don't want to deal with that, I need someone to say, I'll watch the bounces and take care of what's happening. Because part of my modus operandi is I went 2 weeks without internet, and I did not enjoy that vacation at all because I was stressed out about all the hub stuff I am supposed to be doing and I missed. So it was not a fun vacation. So I have to get out of that business. Is there anybody out there who has got any technical savvy who would like to look at a better email system?
Yes, I would.
And that sounded like Matt.
Yeah.
And Matt, that can be separate from a hub or a website. It's our internal dialogue. It's not a MailChimpy sort of thing. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so you're referring to the hubcap mailing list that
Yep.
we're just, yeah.
Yep.
Back and forth. Yeah.
Is there anybody who would like to join Matt? Just so he has someone to bounce something off, because somebody else is going to be doing these emails someday.
This is Gabrielle. I would be happy to be involved if he needed a wingman on that.
Yeah, I think it's a two-person job, just to have someone sanity to check, but I don't think it's a six-man committee.
Right, and probably good to have one person who's not as tech savvy as Matt. So.
Well,
Yeah,
I was that person for a while, and it's not a good thing.
Okay, great.
Okay, Matt, I talked over you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll need to test it and generate some content. So somebody who's more comfortable writing would help also.
Well, this is just email. It's just so that we have 190 hub captains on our email list right now, with all our hub captains and our co-captains and our, there's like 6 city people who get this, so, so it's just that dialogue back and forth. So, okay. Then the next technical thing is the refresh of our website. Our technical webmaster, Patricia Barker, no relation, who was one of the 3 students who created the website, has stood by my side since 2015. And I have to call her every once in a while and go, this is broken, or the calendar's not updating, what's going on? And it's got some tabs that the students built in that none of us have ever used, like at the list of neighborhoods. We had these great visions of everybody was going to go on and update their own separate page, and that never happened. And all these years later, I have zero expectation that it's going to happen. It's just a chore. It's really a chore. And if you're trying to run your own hub, doing this on top of that for the network is tough. So we need someone who's got technical ability to go in and either, fix it, take over the kind of webmastery thing, or refresh it. And as I read this one, just getting ready for the meeting again, I went, let's see who wants to be the webmasters first, because maybe what we need to do is have somebody else work with the website for a while as the content person, and then go, oh, this is a piece of crap, we need a new one. Or they go, this is WordPress, it's really easy to use, we just need to, make these tweaks. So I'm going to defer on this one until we get to that. Erica? Yeah.
I was about to start talking when I realized I was muted. I would like to suggest that maybe we combine the first 2, only because it's possible that that we may end up finding that there are places that could host and help with the website that have email servers built in.
Yeah, Matt has pointed that out before, and he has looked at our website, so I'm pretty sure he'll have that in his mind too, because
Okay.
he's
Yeah,
advocated
no,
for that.
I think that makes sense. Even if it's not to bundle the plan together, it makes sense to have one team or one committee, you know, in charge of both of those things because they're very closely related. For instance, when you're sending email from the hubcaps domain, that's one of the reasons that you get those bounce back messages is because the internet registry, which is like the address book for the internet, it sees that hubcaps.org attached to the email and it says the server that's coming from is not supposed to be associated with this name. So whoever's running that has to be working both sides of that and keep them tied together so that you avoid authentication problems like that.
I can speak up too. The yes and no, I can see both sides of this. If we're doing something with an email service that would be easier to use for email delivery, then there are ways to get around that division between the website and the email service. And there may be good reason to do that because the email service might be easier to use for somebody who's delivering content than it would be to go through a web server that's set up custom. But yes, DNS is part of that. And I can advise on that. Email delivery is one of my least favorite things, but I get called on to figure it out frequently in my work. So there's probably some things that I can help advise with down there. I will throw in my lot on the website part, but only in kind of an advisory capacity in terms of what you want to do. When you decide what you're going to do, I can be a little more involved with it. I don't want to drive the train on deciding whether WordPress or something else is best.
Yeah.
So what you said, Cindy, about having somebody mess with it a bit and see if they like it enough that we can improve it.
Yeah.
I'm all for that.
Okay, I wrote you down, and we will come back to this website stuff in more detail. So we'll kind of gloss over it for right now, recognizing we need both better email and tweaks to something done to the website. If that's, that's a major undertaking, and I'm kind of cautious to put both of those out at the same time. I am going to pause.
I'm happy to play user requirements, user testing, try this out and tell us what you think. And if I have to get enough into the website, maybe not to produce content on it as it is, but to see like how it works or something. You don't have a test for
UAT.
system, do you? Yeah, I do. I basically requirements and then UAT type stuff. I'm happy to.
Well, there's two things. There's two parts. One is we just need someone writing content for the website. I mean, just content and then posting it because I'm failing miserably at keeping it up.
Oh,
that has to happen sooner rather than later. And
I'm not an editor.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Wait for this discussion to come later. And then the technical side is, based on their feedback. So Catherine, before you go off, there's several of you who I saw join. So Catherine, introduce yourself and what hub you're from. And I'll see, oops, shoot. See, I can't scroll. So Catherine, you do you, and then anybody else who's new and missed introductions, introduce yourself.
Yes, Catherine Keller, Homer Harris, which is central area. Apologize. I had a kerfluffle going on in the household.
Don't worry about it. Who else is new out there?
I was late. Sorry. Hey. I was grabbing dinner and stuffing my face, and I'm still kind of stuffing my face, which is why my camera's not on.
And what's your hub?
Maple Leaf South.
Great. Who else is new? Okay, I can't see, so we'll just keep it going then. The next one is also kind of a technical question. Over the years, we've had several liaison people with the city, and each of them has done our printed map slightly different. We're talking about this guy here, right? The big blue map. We've been very fortunate that the city has supported us with the GIS skills, and then they actually have printed all of them for us. I just go in and get 50 more for the outreach events. And they've had interns do it because it's really low on their priority. And the way we typically do it is I send them a file that says, here's all the new hubs, here's the hubs to remove, here's the hubs that have gone from inactive to active status. And they manually go in and do that. And Matt Offlick, before he left, said, I think we got this down. We'll do it like this. You give me the file and I'll send it over and we'll get it all done. Matt left. And so we have a new person who would like to do it different. So this TJ Mcdonald is their kind of GIS expert. And he's also responsible for the Web EOC, which is the system that the city uses to input all their disaster incident pieces of information so that they can track them and visualize where needs are and work all that. His suggestion is that we have a Web EOC account, and every time there's a change within our hub network, we go into our Web EOC account and make that change directly in the city's GIS system. And so advantages are they have an accurate, up-to-date map of all the hubs and where they are and which ones are active or not active. And remember, this is different from our web-based one. So it lives in the city's GIS system. The disadvantage is we have yet another account that someone has to be aware of and manage and be well enough trained in Web EOC to remember what to do, in the 5 months since we last added a hub, which is kind of usually what brings you down, is if you don't use the system, your password gets invalidated and stuff like that. So Ann and I have talked about this. We're 50-50. We're going to need someone, we're going to need to develop a process where we hand this from generation to generation if we accept this responsibility. So I'd like some dialogue about, if we think that that's a really smart way to go, we'll make it happen. If we don't want to take on that level of, the map's going to get screwed up if we don't keep it up, then we need to say to TJ, no, we need to continue doing it the old way. Catherine. And
would we still have our map, or could we just appropriate an image of their map live? And the second question is, would it just be hub information that we have, because we don't necessarily know all the CERT and block watches and all that other stuff?
No. Two different things. The map on our website is ours, and I manage that based on who sends me that information. That is different than the city's. The city's map is kept in their GIS system, and we don't have access to it. That's why we can't go print our own maps.
Right, but is it all of that information, or is it just what we say is a hub information?
No, we only give them, all they care about is hub name and what flavor of icon you use. They just put it in, and it's the GPS coordinates and what icon representation is it. They have address. That's the other thing. If you turn it over, that's all they've got.
Hubs, the open and closed circles, not the CERT and the
right. Just hubs.
Hubs. And this would be, I'm going to ask Matt, is this something that somebody who's been a data quality, data entry, configuration type person, not programming, could do? I mean, I've messed around with, GIS software, but I could check into it to see how involved it is. I think it's a good thing.
But none of us has a GIS paid account because that's expensive to do this in. That's always why we never had anybody with the skills, and we never had anybody volunteer.
I would love to have a user ID and get into the city's GIS as a user who can contribute it.
I'm not sure that's going to happen.
Well, if they need me to open something up and type in some coordinates, I could document how to do
Catherine. That is not the solution they proposed for us. The solution they proposed for us was we get a web EOC account and we enter it.
I have a question on that. So are you saying we would have to be footing or be doing we'd have to take on the cost of that? No. Okay. So yeah.
They would give us.
I do have a history of GIS. I don't know web EOC, but I am pretty good with technology and able to figure out that stuff pretty quickly. I wouldn't mind. I think it's a good idea for us to have more control over it. And it's also, I feel like if it doesn't end up working out, it's not like it's the end all be all, that we could always go back to the old system. So but I would love to try it out, and I would be willing to take that on.
And Erica?
And yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty technologically savvy, and I write up a lot of documentation and training manuals for people at work, and I do cloud computing. So I really into making the documentation really easy to follow. So I would be willing to be part of this and ensure that we have a really easy to follow run book that could be passed on from one person to the next. So I write run books all the time at work.
Okay, that kind of is the really best solution, and that there's two of you involved. To me, it's like there's good continuity that way, because people come and go within the hub groups. And Ann and I's discussion was, if we're part of their response system, as you guys will hear later on this year when they talk about workplace rally points, they are really starting to embed the hubs in their thinking. So the more accurate and the more better and the more relationship we have, I think it's a good thing. So I will talk with TJ. I'll circle back to you guys about, how he wants to do that. So is there anybody else who wants to be involved, or comments or anything else? Great discussion.
I'd actually like to be in on this.
Okay.
I'd like to see it.
Gotcha. Okay. And I will say Catherine Middleton Hardy, who's also on ACS, has web EOC accounts because they actually entered the stuff into web EOC. So, it's not like we're breaking ground. It's just new, kind of additional responsibility that we weren't sure Anna or I had the bandwidth for.
Be good to touch bases with her, the people that have volunteered, touch base with her so they get a running start on how to do it.
Yeah, Catherine, I actually had an account for a while. I can't even remember why I ended up getting it. And it was not that hard to use. It really was that your password expired if you didn't use it every 3 months. So Catherine's on the call here today. So, we have a buddy we can call if we don't want to embarrass ourselves in front of TJ. So that's good. Good idea, Jack. Funding carryover. Hugh, are you on? Do you know how much is in our account?
Oh, yes. I sent you an email earlier today.
I missed it. Sorry.
Okay. $5,777.04.
So we haven't hardly spent anything. Hugh's paid me for our Site 5 web hosting, and that was the only cost we incurred because Ann was doing such a fantastic job at getting grants from the city that we got a lot of our brochures and stuff done under that. And so we have kind of a nice amount of money at the end of the 2 year that we did that fundraising for. So I didn't know when I put this on there how much money we had. I assumed we were maybe down to 3,000. We have pandemic signage that we created, and then we just sort of paused because we said, oh my God, we don't know if we got enough money to make signs or laminate them or do what. So are you guys all okay with, we finished that project by doing the printing for the citywide stuff out of our cash. That's what we raised it for. And with plenty left, I think that should be an okay with everybody, but I wanted to run it past everyone. And then I think Ann has got some new hub books. We've got enough new hubs where she's got to do some extra printing. And that's the other citywide thing. So I saw Jack stick his thumbs up in the air. I can't see everybody else.
Question.
Yep, go ahead.
When you say pandemic signage, how evergreen is that signage? I mean, is there anything in there that it's going to become out of date that really we shouldn't be?
No, we tried to write it for it. We left blanks for depending on what the pandemic was, like stand 6 feet apart was left blank, so if they said 10 feet apart is where you need to stand during this thing, you could write it in. But it was several nurses who were on the committee kind of tried to make sure it was as universal for anthrax and bloodborne and that sort of stuff.
Sounds good.
Okay, there are 4 things in the chat. Is there anything I'm missing out of the chat anybody needs to tell me about?
It's just me, Cindy. Don't worry about it.
Okay, good. No. So we're good. I'm gonna take Jack's 2 thumbs ups as what I can see. So okay. And then so that when I went, I don't know how much money we had. I had to email Hugh. Oops, should we have an annual review, or should we just put that on the bottom line of our bi-monthly meetings just to remind us how much money we've got in there? I think that's just maybe the easier solution so that we can watch it decline. Okay.
Yeah, just put that on your agenda, treasurer's report or something. Yeah.
Perfect. Fantastic, guys. Those were the things that had come up over the 2 years that were like, bigger than a bread box. We don't want to solve this in a single meeting where maybe not everybody will be there. So let's see what we can get through tonight. So we may get out early, but we'll see. So this is the next set. This is the task that we do that the network runs under. And this is the second half of Cindy's get out of business plan. I divided into 4 things: backbone network tasks, the outreach that we do, our best practices in training, and background work, which is a better looking word than administration. It's the stuff that goes on in the background that it doesn't mean you have to go into, meetings to make happen. And I have a story I want to share about this one. For several years, I facilitated another group's leadership meetings. And it was because they knew me through some other community stuff, and they were like, "Oh, you keep meetings running on time, and come do this for us." And it was called the Open Green Spaces Coalition, and they had their board in, and they did, kind of like what we do. What are our goals? Who's going to do what kind of outreach do we need to do? And they had a very strong person who did a lot of that stuff for them. Their board was mostly, I did generators, and that person went off and executed a lot of stuff. And she was their really network connector. So about 4 months after the last leadership meeting we had, she was in Hawaii and she died. She had an accident swimming. And that group completely fell apart. They had sat for years. They all knew the goals. They all knew the mission. They all knew what needed to be done. And the vacuum that she left was tremendous. And that group just barely has withstand the shock. They're still out there, but nobody knew how to fill her shoes. And that was really a serious lesson to me. I love this work, but when I want to retire and I go, I'm going to leave, or we have a health emergency in my family and I've got to pull out, it's a disservice to the organization you're supporting to have not taken care to know how to hand things off. The other part of that story is there are things that I do that nobody else has to do. They're just, I like doing them, or I thought they were important, but they're really not. They're just kind of my weird personality of like cover every detail possible. So we're going to go through these, and the backbone tasks are the ones that I kind of say, if I left, these are the ones that have to keep going on to keep the network pulled together. And then there's some things within outreach and best practices, and then there's background work. So I'm going to go through each of these and we'll talk about them. And I am looking for volunteers. And I will admit that Ann and I went through and we cherry picked, the things that we like to do. And, so that we knew what was already supported. And if other people want to do them, it's not saying you don't have to, but now you can see the gaps on what there is out there. So we're going to go through backbone, outreach, best practices, training and the background work, I'm going to go through them all, and then we're going to come back and get names, right? Because I don't want somebody going, oh, I'll do that, and then they find something in outreach that they like much better. So take notes, everybody. So there's 3 things in the network tasks, and I've got details on each one of these on the next slide, but it's really our network holds, fine, if my mouse is just going to move on without me touching it. The network hangs together because we all get together and talk. You know, our meetings or our communications are really important. The second part of that is, yeah, we do this stuff and people stay plugged in. They need to know what's going on. And if you accidentally have an email list that's corrupted or gotten out of date, you've lost your ability to do things for people. And most importantly with that is welcoming our new members and onboarding them into the network. You know, you have to have someone mentoring them in so that they can get comfortable. And then this is the one, you know, that was talked about earlier on advocacy. We do have to be at some of these tables when it's needed. You know, when we see that the city is launching a project and they don't seem to be involving community, you know, we get out our elbows and move right up to the table. So that is an aspect of this. Erica.
Quick question on that, to clarify, is the representation of hubs when needed. Aren't a lot of those meetings during the workday? So is there a requirement that the person doing that might not necessarily work a 9-to-5 job?
Well, I did the details. I went ahead and moved them because each of them is different. Sometimes it's just being on a mailing list so you know what happens. But yes, the city work is all during the day. I'm trying to think, yeah, the county stuff is during the day, you know, so it's maybe stuff that we stopped going to. Part of it was Ann and I have been going to a lot of them to find out what they do and how important are they. And sometimes now that we know what they do, you can just stay in touch with what goes on in the minutes, you know, so there's other ways to do that. So, and it doesn't have to be one person doing all of that. You know, somebody can say, I'm going to make it up, you know, oh, hey, I'm already at the such and such a meeting because I represent, you know, some other group. I'll take notes for the hubs and report them out in our meetings every other month. So to me, the most important one is find someone else who will run the network meetings. And that's setting the agendas, inviting the guests, and making sure people, you know, get the link and come to the meeting. And it's just running a meeting. It's like, it's not super science. But it just has to happen on a regular basis. And you can see the template that we've used for, you know, multiple months. It's kind of pretty easy. And if people out in the community of the network are saying, I want to invite this guest because, you know, we've been hearing that the electrical grid is an important thing to learn about, you know, let's invite someone from City Light. You know, you guys have ideas of who should come. But also the person who's running the meeting should be pretty tapped into what are the key areas of interest. Oh, here comes Cascadia Rising 2022. We better put it on the agenda. So that is a person to run the network meetings. The second role is ensuring people are plugged in and welcoming the new members. And in the old school way, there used to be, I don't remember what the committee members were called, but, you know, like there was a welcoming committee, you know, and it was just someone that, you know, somebody sends an email to the new hub thing. And I'll take poor Susan as, you know, my example. She sends an email saying, hey, I'm really interested in getting it together with the hub at Bradner Gardens. What do I do? And somebody has to pick up that email and get it to someone who will follow up so that she's not sitting there 2 months later going, well, who are, you know, like they must be nobody because they're not answering me. You know, losing valuable people is, you know, a real shame. And so it's really the point person, and whether the mentoring partner is Ann in the north, Cindy in the south, or Catherine for the central area, or Gina for, you know, Capitol Hill, you know, knowing who is doing some active mentoring and can help that new person, even if they get passed to another person later, at least we've got them onboarded. And then the third piece of it is representing the hubs when we need to be at the table. anybody can be a liaison with the city of Seattle, OEM. It's just telling them what we're doing, kind of keeping the list of, oh, we gotten ourselves involved in this project now. And we have questions about how you're doing this. And can you give us more status on, you know, all that stuff. So it's a liaison to keep each other moving in the same direction. We get inquiries from the hubs to do presentations. New York, Brooklyn, New Orleans, and something else all have happened this year. You know, so it just needs to be someone who monitors it and gets it to a person who said, hey, I can, you know, be a representative. The third one is more like, you know, what Erica was talking about. A lot of those are city ones, you know, finding out what's going on and do we need someone to really attend? Or if there's an important topic, like we had a maritime workshop that was going on today, you know, making sure that Kristen at Shoal knows that this workshop's going on. So it's helping that information that helps all the hubs, you know, be engaged in the topics that are important for them. And then the standing meetings that Ann and I already go to, you know, she and I will sit down and go, okay, this one we can just read the minutes. This one we've got a project going with, so we need to stick in with that. And we'll let you know if anybody needs to attend those. So the standing ones, I'm not as worried about as those other roles. Any questions? Because I'm not going to ask for names on this right now. We're going to go on and do the other ones and come back. Questions? Wish I brought my chapstick up. Outreach. Outreach is actually the fun one. So website, newsletters, promotional materials that we do for outreach, and social media. So website content. I am so sorry, you guys, that, I mean, I can just barely drag myself to do that. I do not know what it is about my personality quirk, but geez, I do not like post. I don't do Facebook. I don't do any of that stuff. And it just is really hard work for me to gen up a blog. And I know that the younger generation is like blog, 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 blog. It is not a problem. It's just hard for me to make our website look fresh all the time. And then the other thing is the calendar of events, you know, which comes out in our agendas. You know, here's the things that people are saying that they're doing for outreach events that can go on the calendar so people can find where a skills fair is. Anne has already said she does not mind taking over the MailChimp newsletters from me. But if there's anybody else who'd like to produce content and, you know, funnel it to her for inclusion, that's fantastic. Promotional hub network materials for outreach events, you know, I forget to do some publicity sometimes, you know, and so sometimes that's like the flyer we need for the next hub exercise, or we've got urban survival skills fairs coming up. And then it goes back to Melissa's point, getting them translated and figuring how to distribute them that is in a more equitable way than just our email lists. So, you know, having some thought behind that. And the last one is social media. And we just don't have a presence there. And if we are creating content, maybe that's easier because the content can just get stolen and, you know, posted. Susan Sanders is the only one I know of us who continually blogs on Facebook. So, you know, that we just don't have one. And I'm not saying we have to invent it, but if somebody goes, oh, I could, you know, I'm interested in doing that and I have the bandwidth to do it, feel free. So those are the 4 things that we've got around outreach. Am I missing anything on this? Okay. Best practices in training. So 4 topics under this one are field exercises, doing hub 101s. We do topical workshops and projects. And an example of that is the one that Jim's got and Melissa around, you know, tightening up the volunteer stuff, some of the things that come out of our after action reviews, or new projects that we've got if we were trying to do some kind of a special engagement thing. And then the deep dives. I mean, we've had a lot of material get recorded and posted, and I know you guys might have other ideas out there or topics. And so having people take over the deep dives would be really cool. And it's really, it's just like you get your own hour to explore the topic of your interest. So it's kind of a fun opportunity. When we talk about doing the field exercises, and did the last one for, the bulk of that work, and she's willing to continuity wise do it for another year, and then we'll, put it on, and she definitely will be asking for some specific help within that. So unless you have a burning desire to take that one on this year, at least Anne has volunteered to continue to do that. The Hub 101s, Anne and I don't mind doing those, but we're getting so many of them that we may start having to ask for some help. So if anybody would like to learn to do those, we would love to, enroll you into doing them. Some of you guys have done your own little training exercises without us anyway. Linda Norlin and Sarah, you just learn, you just step in and do it. It's not that hard, but we'd like to, transfer that knowledge to other people. The topical workshops and projects. When we have our next Hub Captain meeting, we have at least 3 new projects that got put into work, and whether anybody is going to want to help us on them, but we owe you an explanation because we've been doing all the background work, getting them ready. And we always need point people to move other projects on that we think are important. If we had another new disaster like COVID, we might need somebody to dig into that for how we deal with that as a hub community. And then there was my example of Jim and Melissa on the volunteer management. The one concerns, that was like another example of a project that we had. And then the deep dives, Anne also says she can help coordinate that, but topics, provided is a good thing. So if you've got any interest in any of these, we're going to come back to that. And then the last category is the background administrative type work. This is where we started our conversation way back up at the beginning. Just the maintenance stuff, our current webmaster asking to get out of it. So having somebody learn how to crutch our current system in while our new web content person starts to play with the web and go, it's really it's a whole bad thing, or it's doable, we just need to clean it up in a certain way. And then we have someone within the web network who can do that for us instead of me having to call and beg Patricia to find time to do that for us. The second thing is ensuring that our new hubs get added to the system we've created. And I'll show you that on the next one. And then the activity reports is really, it's kind of interesting. I keep a file of, things that we get invited to, and I keep a file of all the pictures I take. And then I have my day timer, and I sit and I go through that in January and go, well, what do I have on here? And then I put out a call to you guys saying, what did I miss? And, you've done some individual things that you fill in the blank for me. So it takes a couple of hours, but it's not too bad. But if we want to do that, I'm not sure I'll be as bulletproof on being able to figure that out. So that's just something else to add to the list of stuff. Here is the details on the website maintenance, we have to, currently I'm paying for the website, and then I ask for reimbursement, whether we move it to another person, I'm not so worried about as long as I don't miss the payment. But the plugins and all the technical stuff that has to happen to keep the website from crashing, we need someone to do that. The second category is, this is what, every time somebody calls me and says, change my name or I got a new co-hub captain, this is what has to go in so that new person gets plugged in. And, it's kind of like, but it's a really good system that we've got. They get emails directly from hub captains. There's the master list that we keep on our Google Drive, so everybody knows who's who in the zoo. The interactive map gets updated so that the community knows who to contact around each hub. MailChimp gets updated, so all the hub captains get the newsletter so that they can pass it on, and then giving them access to the Google Drive so that they can get into the file system. So somebody has to make sure all those things happen for new hub captains or any changes. And that's what I call the background work. And then there's the activity report. So, got your pencils out? Cindy's going to get her pencil out. Running the network meetings. Who would like to volunteer for that?
Dare I say crickets?
This is one of the few times I'm going, don't talk, don't talk, don't talk. Is that a volunteering, Brianna?
Honestly, my bandwidth is so, you would have pretty crappy meetings if I would even think about volunteering for
I'm
this stuff.
surprised, but yeah. So really, we do need someone. And I'll give you the other experience I have. I belong to another group where we meet monthly and we rotate facilitators, and it does not work. Oh my God, it doesn't work. So there's only 6 meetings a year, guys. And we're already through the second one. There's only 4 left this year.
I wonder if it's one of those things where it can be distributed in a way where somebody sets the agenda and invites a guest and the other person runs it, or something along those lines that might be beneficial. I don't know.
So if all you crickets out there, if you are willing to divide it that way, running the meeting on Zoom, and we haven't even gotten to, are we going to do this in person or not yet? So if that would tip you over to volunteering for one of the 2 pieces of that, say so now.
So this is Gabrielle, and I would be happy to, I highlighted a couple other things that I was interested in, but I would be willing to do this if there was someone I could work with, and if someone couldn't do it one time, or we could find a way to divide it up if Brianna was offering. So I would be willing to consider that. I'm not sure I'm ready to take on the whole thing myself.
Okay.
Just my plate is full too.
Yeah.
But if there was someone who could step up, I think I could do that, and then I could maybe not take on one of these other things that I said maybe I marked that I might be interested in.
Well, I'll negotiate with you on that, because I know that there's 1 or 2 I cannot do. And so maybe between you and me, I'm not trying to back out of everything altogether. So I would be happy to partner with you.
Okay, I understand that.
Yeah, well, if you don't want to do that, Cindy, I can also partner with her.
Okay, well, we will definitely negotiate, because I'm waiting to go, do I get to do one of the fun things, or do I get to do one of those things that we cannot let drop, So
Right.
got you too. Okay.
Okay.
Ensure everybody's plugged in, welcoming new members. Welcoming committee.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was one of the things I put on my list. So if nobody else wants to do that one.
And Gina, I'll help you with that, because it really turns out to be kind of a skill in some weird ways, but you've done such a fantastic job up there at Capitol Hill. So.
Well, and I do the same kind of thing for the Sustainable Capitol Hill. So I'm kind of the front person there. So I'm used to, getting emails and figuring out what to do with them. So.
Okay. All right. Is there anybody else who would want to engage in that?
Cindy,
Okay.
Since the crickets are so loud, this is Robert. Hi. As I had told you, I joined late to the meeting, so I'm not quite sure what is being asked, except that volunteers are being asked for. I'm certainly willing to do something, but I don't know what's most appropriate, especially because I'm new at this too. So
you hold off, right? Robert's been a hub captain for what, 6 months? so we'll find something for you. Plugging people in is kind of like, you have to know the network and know who's already out there to plug them in. So so his hub is, since he just took a mouthful, Pigeon Point out here in West Seattle. So welcome. Thank you for actually being anti-cricket. So we'll find something for you. Okay, so I've got Gina down for that, and with help from Cindy, of course. Represents the hubs. And, so this one was, I'm not too worried about you guys stepping up to this one, but recognize that when I go out for my 4-month vacation, please someday let that happen. I'm going to be saying, hey, here's 2 important meetings that we need to have someone at. And it's better that someone knows what's going on than just going, I don't know why I'm in this meeting. So I think Ann and I owe you a little bit more to skinny these down to the really important message meetings. One of them would be the Disaster Management Committee meeting that the Seattle City runs. There were several of you who had volunteered in the past that you would attend those. And then most everybody except Andy Peck dropped away from those. So we just need to refresh that group, I think. So I think on the represents the hubs when they need to be at the table, I'll work that one a little bit longer and come back with more definition for you guys. You never know when you think it versus when you speak to people about it, what comes, what gets clarified for you. Did I need to stay on this for anything else to hear more crickets? This is the hard one. This is the oh, it's the backbone. Ooh, outreach is more fun. Website content.
So I have a question about the content because I know we've had some discussions. I don't think we've gotten our ball all the way into the end zone, if I can use a really bad sports metaphor, about writing stuff that we could send out to our neighborhoods. So is the website content for the casual person who comes in and is looking at our website and wants to know about hubs? Is there a way to overlap that same content? If we're writing something anyhow that's going to go out to neighborhoods, we could use chunks of that on the website.
That is a philosophical question, and Ann and I have talked about this. You can get general preparedness information on about 50,000 websites. The hub website is the only place you can come to learn about the hubs and what we do. And so I've been a pretty bulldoggy about it stays hubs, which in some cases means, especially during pandemics, there was not a lot to post because I would post, we did this outreach event, we're coming to your neighborhood. We had this thing called the Urban Survival Skills Fair, and then the exercises. They're kind of like the big things that go on the web. So it's really hub focused content. Oh man, I thought somebody would jump at this one.
Cindy, I can do that.
Oh wow, Linda, fantastic. And I got to tell you, if you post more than every 6 months, you're doing better than me. So it's like, I guess at a really low bar to exceed over. And all of you guys who are saying, I will circle around to you and, get you the information and we'll talk more. Is there anybody else that had a particular interest in the MailChimp newsletters? Otherwise, we'll let Ann have it. Well, she speaks up and says she's had second thoughts. It's only quarterly, so not bad. Good. Promotional. This really can be kind of like as needed, as long as we remember to ask for it. Or maybe somebody's doing the field exercise and says, I need help. And we just send it out at the time. It's really kind of like occasionally making sure that, our new hub brochure, which won't be out of date for a while, doesn't fade away, right? Or get bad information on it. Or for example, Ann's talked about getting a Google phone number and, maybe we need to add that to materials. So I'm not too worried about that one. And was there anybody who was like super social media? I'm perfectly fine if we don't waste your energies on that. Mostly because if we did social media, we'd actually have to be very deliberate about what we're doing. Best practices and training. So, like I said, Ann's willing to do the one next year. And, maybe there'll be a understudy that goes along with that, or who is, she may do all the planning, but is the right-hand man for being ready to do next year, the following year. And is there anybody out there who wants to do hub, or excuse me, so is there anybody who wants to understudy? Let's ask that. And I hate to have that, the second bullet had to say, it's a big task, because it really is. Okay, Hub 101s, is there anybody interested in learning how to do those?
Cindy, I think I would be, but I'm so green.
We will get you ungreen.
Yeah, I'm sure you learn by doing.
Yep, that's right. Anybody else? Thank you, Susan.
So Cindy, this is Gabrielle. I had marked either the Hub 101 or working on the promotional materials. So I'll just toss that out there and you figure out if there's a place that I fit as things go on, which one might be better.
Okay.
Which is more important that you think you're going to need.
I think the promotional material is like, it's only going to come up once in a while. You know, there's no need for it right now, but there's a need for the Hub 101, because we really are starting to see several new hubs and a lot more activity now that we're coming out of COVID. So I will put you down as kind of like the tentative on the promotional material, but another understudy role in the Hub 101.
I wonder at some point if you would have a group of people who would look at all the different ways we distribute information. I mean, it's kind of been, you and Ann have kind of been at the nexus of that, but that might make sense because there might be something that goes out in one way that could go out in different.
Give me an example of what kind of material you're talking about. I'm mixing the two topics, I think.
Oh yeah, just you're talking about updating materials. You know, if you had somebody who was doing newsletters and then updating other materials, there might be ways that things could be reused. I don't know. I'm just thinking about them as different kinds of content. And don't worry about it.
Yeah, I don't know. And we'll talk more. Okay. I'll ask you about that. Okay. So Gabrielle, Susan and Gabrielle on the Hub 101s. Anybody else? They're really
Cindy?
fun.
Cindy?
Hey.
Hey, it's
You
Ron.
snuck in.
Yeah, sorry I'm late. Where can I fit into the 101? What do you think I can?
Could you teach one? You've seen me do these.
Sure, I can be unteachable.
All right. That would be good. We just wanted to have a few more people know how to do these, because we hate to turn people down if Ann and I are both happen to be not available for a while. And there's a point where when I've had to do like 3 in 1 week, and you know, like I'm going, no, I'm retired. Is there anybody I can share this with? So yeah, thank you, Ron.
Okay.
We will train you.
I have a question on the like commitment size of that. What does that look like getting trained to do? Obviously doing the actual Hub 101, but like the training commitment, I guess.
Well, typically when someone calls me and says, I'm going to do a Hub 101, I go, great, you do all the logistics stuff, because I'm responding to usually a neighborhood wants to do it or a church wants to do it. So I don't have to do the outreach. I just show up. I got a little box of training materials and the posters under my arm, and a kind of like a stock agenda that I just tailor based on what they say. You know, we're really, really, really new, so I know go really slow. Or if they go, we were in the exercise last year and we want a refresher, you know, so you tailor it a little bit. And that's really all it is. So I've gotten it down where I just have to make sure all the forms are printed and ready to go, and then clean the mess up afterwards. So.
But like the trainer part, like learning it, you know, is that, what does that entail? Like,
Well, we've never
Yeah.
had to train the trainer before. I mean, this
I
is our
know.
first asking, but I bet I could sit down and have you ready to do it in an hour.
I'm really interested in the Hub 101. I would like to learn it. I also am in a huge transition phase right now for myself, so I want to put my name down and
Well, we'll put it down and we'll do it later. You know, it's like, you tell me when you're ready.
okay, great,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yep. We're just broadening our capacity, right? It didn't all happen today. So topical workshops and projects, and that is really on demand. So really my plea here is, just like Jim and Melissa stepped up when we came out of the after action and they said, I really see a need to get this better organized or to do something different. And they were willing to be the point people. That's what I want to ingrain in everybody. You know, please don't wait for someone else to do it. If you see something that irritates you, you think you can make it better, do it. Just do it. You know, like I'm trying to make it so it's not feeling like somebody's running this thing. We all participate in this. And so I'm just trying to encourage everybody can help move stuff forward on this. And the deep dives. So Anne said she knows of at least a couple months she could cover. We could go to every other month. We can make sure we put out a call and say, do you have topics? And, you know, between Anne and me, or you, if you've got a contact, like Anne found the sanitation, the toilets ones, you know, she stumbled onto that person. And that was simply the matter of saying, are you available on this night? Can you come talk? And that was all we had to do. And it was a great one. So that's what the deep dives are about. So Anne will make sure that we've got some content for a few. If anybody has already got a topic, you know, say now, and then we can maybe, you know, get a couple months planned out. But it's really kind of like also knowing who the guest is we should invite. Anybody have any ideas right off the top? We're going to come to you with reunification. We're going to come to you with pharmacies.
I have ideas, but I don't have any contacts or knowledge of who would talk about it.
Okay. What are your ideas?
I'm really concerned around apartments, like, you know, being prepared in terms of like the shut off stuff and just like how to be prepared in an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And also I've actually this year had a lot of pushback and problems getting a reunification plan from my daughter's school.
Great one.
I would love to know more about that because I know friends from other schools who are having the same issue. So I'm curious more about that. I don't know who would talk about it, but
okay.
Yeah.
We will figure it out. Any other ideas out there?
Say, Cindy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Question for Melissa. Where are you and Jim now on the volunteer management skill resource project? Are you still working on it? Could you use someone else to work with you?
Yeah, I can't talk for Jim, but my part of it kind of fell off, but Sarah, I think it was Sarah Sarah, you, I know, were really gung-ho and had sent out some information that your hub was doing. And so I wanted to kind of figure out, that kind of got it reignited for me. So I think it's just a matter of meeting about it and talking about it to kind of finalize how we can make it like what we need to say or what we need to change to just be like, to be able to say hubs can change this term or that term for however you want, and this is how it runs. Because I think a lot of what was the issue was the terminology, and each hub kind of has terminology that means one thing or another to them. So for mine, it has kind of fallen off for me, but most of the work was done on it. And then I think it just needs to kind of be brought back around for another convo, a group convo.
Yeah, well, you can put me down for that, Frank, and be in touch with Jim and just see what you've got, because Meek was doing it a little differently than everybody else, because that's the way we do things. But that's one of the things we're working on is volunteer management and just how to organize that in the manual for our place. But I will say, if we have 7 sectors, it would make sense that we come to consensus on terms and volunteer management, so we don't have 7 different models running around based on the sector.
Yeah, that was Jim was the one taking on the volunteer management part. I was strictly doing like the skill versus resource project.
Okay.
So I wouldn't, yeah, I think he did. I don't know where that landed actually.
Yeah, and I feel bad because this leadership retreat sort of pushed that off the agenda to, get an update of where we're at. So I will talk to Jim and see if he can put something out in email.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if I can figure out where I'm going to write that and not forget it. Any other ideas for deep dives?
Crazy.
Seemed like there was one other topic.
I mean, topics to deep dive on.
Mhm.
Same situation.
That's okay. I mean, with what I just listed, we almost got a whole year. Yeah, Matt, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, if anyone's interested, I have been known to talk a lot about flashlights. So if anyone has questions about flashlights and headlamps and stuff, I could probably fill an hour.
Yeah, well, we should probably do one on Go Kits, which includes the flashlights and solar and, some of that. ACS did they had to do it really fast because they had such a big agenda last time, but it's really fun seeing other people's kind of like, how would you get through a disaster and what are the cool tools out there? So I did not know you had a flashlight fetish though.
Yeah, collection, yeah. Yeah, kits are a whole thing. It's also fun to talk about.
Yep.
Yeah, I would second the Go Kits.
Anything else? Good. I mean, it helps having the ideas. Oh, Sarah?
I would add community water management. Not meaning that we as a community provide water, but just that we develop a whole set of water storage tools so that people can do the 55 gallon tanks. They can do the 7 gallons. They have some of the anti-moss stuff in there so that they'll
like storage treatment.
Yeah, and you're saying the information, not that we start
correct
hashing those. Okay,
just the information, because that's going to be our biggest problem once things sort of settle down.
Mm-hmm.
Like 24 hours later.
Okay. Okay. Good one. Any others? And I remember the last one. It was workforce rally points that the city's working on. We have to wait for them to finalize that.
That brings up something else. Rally points. I was looking at OpenStreetMap, and they have a category for place that's a rally point, and there's something called like an emergency gathering point. I tried submitting our hub as one of them, and I noticed that there were a bunch that were submitted around Seattle that were like in P patches, and it looked like they might have been hubs like somebody did this years ago, but it's incomplete. And so I wondered if maybe we revisit that and talk about.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
OpenStreetMap is a website that lets you contribute to a map, so you can add place details. And so I added our hub to it, and I noticed that there were other what looked like hubs that somebody added a few years ago. But maybe we want to revisit that and talk about whether it's something that people want to, get together and contribute that data to the public map, just as an additional, way for people to find out about us.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Okay. That's a
I'm also
project.
familiar with it. Yeah.
That is a perfect project to me because I'm going, we already have our online map. Why would we duplicate information? But if it reaches an audience that we don't currently reach, perfect, So I'm putting you two down. What's it called? OpenStreetMap. Gina and perfect. Catherine.
Yes, sorry, I hope I didn't miss it earlier. My kid was having a total cow, but you mentioned you were gonna do an FL Digi training.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Great. Okay, we got a full year almost going here. Louise.
I wondered if it would get asked that question all the time. And also just on where kits are stored and functionality in different lives.
And you're asking that so that you are a better teacher when you do your outreach booths.
Yeah.
And do you have any comments on that? I mean, is there other things we should roll into that?
I could easily fill an hour, find somebody to fill an hour. We were going to go by, every other month with these, but I don't think that's going to happen.
I think we're
I've
able to go
listed
like
10
twice
things
a
down
month.
already. Yeah. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Gabrielle.
which is great because that to me is what I love about the hubs. I learn stuff every day. So Gabrielle, and then Catherine, is your hand still up? Yeah.
So this is Gabrielle, and I would support a move to every other month as somebody that has a lot of meetings. But it's fine if we have them every month. How about one where we gave more specifics about what to do with your old phones? I know I mentioned that, but now my old phone is still sitting and I haven't actually done what I said I was going to do in terms of downloading Google Maps or downloading Google Translate, and maybe we could make it a little more hands-on if we felt we could do that. Or if we recorded it, people could go back to it and then work through it with their phones.
That is the good thing about, even if we stick with every month, we do record them. So, Catherine.
Yeah, thanks. So I saw that Frank had left, and then Bill was hiding. So we in Miko had made our hub to go boxes, which was an idea of being able to expand and spontaneously stand up a satellite hub if there was a true disaster and we needed to do that. So that's a concept that could be something that could be shared as a deep dive.
Okay. We probably should stop because we do have a full year's worth there. So excellent. This is great. I mean, this was fantastic to go so much energy around these different topics. And so some of them I know are not mature, and others we can move right into doing them. So Gabrielle, is your hand still up? Okay. So Anne, I'll make sure I took notes and pass them to you, and we'll divide who's going to coordinate which ones.
Thank you.
Last one is the background technical stuff. Matt, since your microphone's off.
Yep.
Are you going to volunteer for that first one?
Yeah, sure.
That's what So I will get with you. I think you already have the passwords and everything like that. You can start poking around and I'll show you what the terrible issues are.
I have some of it. I'll need to sync with you offline. There's some pieces I'm missing.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you. I was hoping Matt would do that since he's tried to help us before, and we just need to make this go over the finish line. Who would like to? This goes back to the person who is, in some ways, the person who is making sure everybody's plugged in. So, like welcoming the new members. So here's how it kind of works. Cindy gets an email. So-and-so wants to, start a new hub. There's a series of meetings that happen. The person commits and we start going, okay, what are your first steps? Have a hub 101. And eventually they go, okay, yeah, I really want to do this. And so you have to put them into, on the email list, onto MailChimp, and in the Google Drive is the first 3 steps, so that now they're connected. And then eventually they go, yes, we're really a hub. And then you got to put them on the map. And so somebody has to do all those steps. And I do not, since I've been doing it all myself, I don't know how to divide that up. Is it the person who greets people? Is it the person who becomes the mentor?
Well, it sounds like it's broken into pieces, as you said. And so I think if we get, I hadn't heard the term run list or run something, you know, if we put together a big, a very explicit, like here's kind of the flow of where it needs to happen. And then at different points, it can branch off to whoever's appropriate to do either that one step or that set of steps. If it makes sense, if there's like, you know, like MailChimp is whoever's doing MailChimp would do that, you know, or, you know, whoever has permissions on the Google Drive, you know, so it seems like a lot of it will fall to specific people quite naturally once we figure out who those people are.
Yep. Yes, I agree, because it's like, and then Mentor, and then MailChimp, and then, yes, yep.
I suspect some of it could be automated, at least partially, like some of these different systems. So maybe you wouldn't have to actually have different people logging into all these things. Maybe you could delegate some of that out and just kind of kick off a process once you've got the person engaged, you know.
That's exactly what I do. It's like I take the notes and I have 3 columns, and it's like added to this, added to this, added to this, because those first 3 happen all at the same time, you know. And it's just, I just go between all the different accounts. And so we just have to go, is it one person handling all the accounts, or is it the MailChimp person, the Gmail person, the Google Drive queen, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm just thinking they might be able to link in such a way that you could, one person could just, you know, kick that off and it would do those changes automatically.
I think you should look for that, Matt.
Yeah, I've never heard, I didn't know you could jump between 5 different accounts with a single automated thingy job, which would be fantastic, you know. So Matt and I will talk. And then Catherine, and then Erica.
You know, listening to this, it seems like, you know, it used to be contact Cindy. And then it was like contact Ann. I mean, about anything. So it just seems like we're going to need an sort of operational stuff documented, and who do you talk to for what. And sometimes I think there's a technology piece in here that just really, that would be a good committee, because looking at integration, looking at then how do you actually document it so members can use it, and looking at automation, and all of that is always a moving target, but you need the framework, the ops workflow documented. So
I will say that on my screen right now is Catherine, Erica, Matt, and Gina. And you guys would probably read the user's manual, but nobody else ever reads the user's manual. So I am trying to make sure we do it in a cultural way, as well as have the operations manual.
Well, no, but I'm just saying, at the end of the day, when I look at what if I met somebody and we wanted to do a web hub 101, and if they were in the central area, I would probably start playing that role of hopefully eventually being able to be a mentor. But I'm not going to be the mentor person, but then I'm going to go, well, who's the person that's worrying about mentors? It's almost like I just need a list of who. We just need to be able to know who do we go to for what. And some of that can be organized in tools like a Slack, where you have topics and people can participate and get updated on things that
30% of our hub captains opted into Slack when we, you know, tried to get everybody onto that.
Yeah,
So,
no, I don't like Slack personally, but that kind of a model where people can there's a lot of nexus of outreach where technology gets in the way.
Yes.
I'll stop there.
Yeah.
And we can't do that, but we still have to keep everything functional.
Yep. And Ann and I are not leaving. I mean, I'm not leaving. I'm just trying to get out of the repetitive, you know, boring stuff. Erica?
Yeah, I was actually going to volunteer for this because, one, it feels like it makes sense that who's ever updating like the master list and the interactive hub is also going to be one of the same people who's doing the EOC one. Because it just seems like those two roll together. Two, I like the idea of seeing if some of this can be automated, that I don't know how to do it, but I love automation. I do that. It's a big thing I do at work. I would love to coordinate with Matt on trying to figure out how to streamline this so that it is a little more automated, that it kind of works behind the scenes. We have a way to fix it if it breaks in the run book, but otherwise it makes it a little simpler.
Okay, great. When you say things like that, what I will do is I will make sure I coordinate with you so you know how to do all these. And your second piece is you and Matt work on the automation thing, but the
yeah,
having someone else who can do all this stuff and start
yeah.
to transition that's the key thing.
Yeah, no, that I've recently been doing that at work, whereas like I'm running through the whole process, and while I'm doing it and documenting, I'm like, oh, no, we need to change this. And I'm figuring out how to automate it in the process, but you got to do it first to figure out how to best automate it.
Yep, that's right. So perfect. Thank you, Erica. So Erica and Matt kind of combo on that. Catherine, is your hand back up again?
No.
Okay, super. The last thing about the activity reports, I just don't know, like, they make me feel good. I know they make you guys feel good when you come out and you go, look what we do as a coalition. And they really give us credibility with the city, when you can show them that you probably did more than their staff actually got done. Sometimes it's like, it feels really nice. And so, I'll still work on that, and I'll figure out some way where there's a file created that, it's kind of like here's a tidbit for the activity report. And then that makes it easier to transfer off. If anybody has any ideas about that, let me know, but I'll keep working on that one for this year, because that's something I can just do behind the scenes too.
Yeah, I would, again, sort of leading towards automation stuff. If there was a form that we created, like a Google form where people could submit activities, then it would automatically get centralized. It would just be a matter of, people doing that, how we would get them to do that, how they would keep the link, like, where's that link or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's one idea for having a way to put it all together.
Great. That's a great one. Even if it's a Google form that
idea.
Is automated for me to input, as we teach,
right.
Other people
Yeah,
to do it.
that could be, yeah.
Gina, I'll work with you on that, because I
Sure.
would like to learn about Google Forms. So good.
Okay.
Did anybody miss anything that they want to go back and claim? I think we got everything really critical covered that we needed, and we found a couple places where it's like, those can float okay. We just will cover them when we come to those particular opportunities. Okay, let me stop sharing. Is there anything else for the good of the order done? This was fantastic. Robert, I just saw you, Robert, and I'm going to find something for you. Don't worry about it.
Good, I won't. Thank you for connecting me with Ian. I just wanted to mention, I just saw one of some of you probably know the Meaningful Movies organization that do monthly offerings. And the latest one is on Kailash Eco Village in Portland. And much of that documentary really has to do with what we're about, disaster preparedness. There's a lot about what to do with poop and pee, and there's a lot to do with potable water. And it occurred to me that I don't know, Cindy, if you, as part of the Hub network, offer any sort of menu of good documentaries and other things like that. And it might be good if we include that either on the activities list or somewhere if we want to disseminate information. Some people like to watch that kind of thing, and there are so many good documentaries out there.
That's the sort of thing that is perfect to send out to all the Hub captains. And if you would do that, because I wrote down phonetically what you just said, and I thought you said it was in Portland.
Yes.
Send that out. And then we used to, probably last time I think we did it was about 5 years ago, there was a whole series of meaningful movies around Cascadia Rising. It was called The Pacific Rim. And so they would show that movie and we'd have a Hub presentation right after that. And we did that for 3 or 4 years. That was fantastic. So I hadn't heard meaningful movies had come through with much. And so if there's some new topics that we can start connecting with, that's fantastic, as well as books. You know, Ann and I are reading a couple of good books, and we need to make sure we get those out to people because they're really eye-opening and make you think deeper. So put that out in an email. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, but I think it would also be good. I recently looked at the website a little bit, but I don't remember, but having like a resources page. I know you said we don't want to have like stuff that's all over the internet, but I think it is good to have a list of things that like we've looked at and we think are good that people can go and look at. Because the email, like either you come after the email and so then you never hear about it, but if it's on the website on like a resources thing, then it has more of a historically lasting place.
We do have a resources tab, but it's really around how to build Hub 101s, because I got tired of emailing everybody who said from another city who said, oh, I
How do
want
we
to
do this?
yeah. So we could do a more, it's not resources, it's more like learn more, or, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Something like that. But yeah, I think that having it on the website makes it more easy for it to get around for more people than just to
That's
email
great.
it.
That reminded me also, sorry to do a go back here, but you know, the topics listing. We have had one meeting with a professor from Sendai, Japan, and it's a continuation of a one-day workshop that happened last August where the University of Washington had a workshop with Sendai, and we talked about best practices between the communities. And so it was just like a one-day sharing, and we all went away going, God, it would be so great to work together. Well, we reached out to Sendai and said, you know, we really want to work together. So we've had one meeting with them to start to work through what would that look like. And once we have a second meeting where we sort of firm that up, we're going to come back to the hub captains and go, who would like to be engaged in this? So that might be an opportunity where it's an example of a specific project where we haven't asked for people to participate. So, and it will probably end up being a kind of like a deep dive-y sort of thing. Okay, I just have to find where I'm going to write that. Anything else that now popping up that in people's heads? I'm still not looking at chat. Anything I need to see, Ann? Okay. We get out 5 minutes early, and I hated doing this virtually, but it worked out okay. I can't wait till we can do this in person. I'm hoping we'll start talking when we can schedule at least social events again. So thank you, everybody, for coming out. Oh, Bill has his hand up.
Just quick question, and I was gone for a little bit, but have you talked anything about exercises this summer or around Cascadia Rising or anything like that?
We haven't, June, mostly because we just didn't have a regular meeting. We are going to coordinate with ACS for their June 11th drill. So we had plenty of time to, you know, before we started talking to people. The city hasn't figured out what they're going to do. We've got well, let me finish. We've got a couple of people who said that we may be able to go into their department emergency centers to observe, but we haven't got that confirmed. So June 11th is an ACS drill, and that's all we know of for Cascadia Rising so far. Our summer exercise, you may have been gone when we said Ann's going to coordinate this year's big drill, but we have not started talking about what, when, where.
Okay. All right, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll have to send out a here's what's cooking email, since our next meeting isn't for 2 months, you know, just so that everybody's kind of seeing the dates that are starting to get lined up. We've got a couple of skills fairs lined up already, so we'll probably have to put out a status newsletter. All
Well,
right.
yeah, I mean, Miqua Hubs, we've been talking amongst ourselves about, if anything, just a day setting up one of our hubs, just to get it out of the box and see what's there and all that kind of stuff.
A lot of people do. How much mold has grown on it? Can you open the lock still, or did it rust shut while we were?
Right, exactly. But and that's what we're talking about. But I just wanted to know what the network was talking about.
Yeah, no, I'll put something together summarizing everything. Yeah.
You laugh
That
about
actually is a
mold.
practical thing. You should go and at least once a year, you know, do the tents and dry them out and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, I find all kinds of interesting dead critters in there and whatnot.
Dead batteries. Jack?
Yeah, you laugh about mold, but I went in and pulled out our whiteboards. We were showing the new emergency guy at the Finney Neighborhood Association, the box and stuff, and pulled it out, and that whole cardboard issue kind of stuff on the back of our whiteboards was all molded. So we've got to find a different material to use for that.
Yeah. That's probably what we need as a tips. When we first started hubs, you didn't have, long-term mold issues, but we probably need to do how to keep your equipment fresh. And put in the
Probably
chat.
some
Who are
leak
your agents?
humidifiers.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Like the kind you stick inside a gun safe, like those absorbent
Reaper things. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was
There's
just thinking
sponge.
of going with a white plastic sheet that would be writable just as much as a whiteboard would be wouldn't be prone to mold.
Yep. All right, everybody. Linda, are you raising your hand? Okay. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Have a nice evening, and we'll see you at the next deep dive on electricity. Good night.
Everybody.
Right.
Thank you.